Howdy, everybody.
Howdy. Howdy.
All right, who's going to make their future greater than their past? So that's a quote from Dan Sullivan. Anybody heard of Dan Sullivan?
Yeah.
Anybody read the book 10x is easier than 2x? Yeah? How many people raise your hand? Let me see. 10x is easier than 2x? All right, you got to get that book. So I'm going to teach a bit of a principle that I learned recently in that book. I've read 2 books in the past 2 years that really changed my whole trajectory. One was The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, and the second one was this one, 10x is easier than 2x. I'm not done with it, I'm like rereading it, but it freaking blew my mind. So what I'm going to share is a little bit of the story here. Does anybody know who this is? Folks, you gotta know.
Some philosopher?
Michelangelo.
He's on your side.
All right, so Michelangelo is a master of art, right? And one of his first sculptures was Hercules. Okay? At the age of 17, he's like, I'm gonna go out of the box. I'm gonna create something amazing. It's gonna feel like a real life statue. It's gonna be like the human anatomy. But it's like, how do you do that? So he had to learn human anatomy. How do you learn human anatomy? You gotta find a corpse. Right? You gotta find a dead body. But back then, you couldn't just grab a dead body and study it. You could literally go to jail, be killed for that, right? So he did it anyway. He's like, I'm going out of the box. He had 5 florins at the time that he had earned and over a couple of years, and decided he's gonna buy what? Next slide. I gotta do that. Over here. Oh, perfect. So anybody know what this is? Piece of marble. A rock, basically. So for 5 florins, which was a shit ton of money, he buys a piece of rock. And he sees something in this rock, he's like, I'm gonna make something amazing. And he goes and studies corpses until he really understands the anatomy, and then he puts together the Hercules statue, which is no longer in existence, unfortunately. It was at the Fontainebleau in Paris, I believe, not the one down the street. And I now have this statue sitting on my desk. Why do I have the statue sitting on my desk? Because it reminds me how like you can really create anything out of a rock, out of anything that you want, right? You can literally make anything, like anything is possible. And he saw this. So how it landed for me is it's about the context, not the content. The content was a rock, right? What's the content we're all dealing with? What's the context we have about it? When you think of that switch, that's what opened my mind up. And this book opened my mind up because it said, all right, how are you thinking about things? Like, how are you thinking about things? Like, are you thinking in the box, out of the box? Are you thinking linear? Are you thinking quantum leap? Are you thinking exponential growth? How are you thinking about how are you going to go bigger, right? And I realized, I was like, wow, I'm going big. Like, I've been growing my company. We just hit the Inc. 5000, amazing. But I'm like, I'm going bigger than them, going Inc. 500, right? But what's the trajectory of that? Oh, I realized it's freaking linear for me. And I'm like, linear? That's cool. Like, screw that though. Why not go exponential, right? So I realized even in my growth path, I was like, damn, I'm going linear? What the hell am I thinking? I'm like, oh, I'll try to, my investors were like, oh, just take it easy on the growth. Let's look at profit. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at profit, but I'm looking like I'm going there. I'm going 50 million. And they're like, well, let's slow it down. I've never seen anybody do that before. I'm like, okay, so what? So I realized I was like slowing down until I came here to Nick, and he's like, let's do the mid-year huddle. Let's think about like the adjustments. And I came to my sales team and my investor. I said, listen, screw that.
Are you gonna go?
We're going quantum leap, right? So I want you to think about things. If you thought about how to grow your business and double your business, you'd be thinking a certain way, right? Like how many people want to grow their business, double their business? That'd be amazing this year, right? Now, what if I asked you to think about what would it look like to grow 10x? I mean, we hear about 10x all the time, right? Except I want you to think about 10x differently. This is what the book talks about. 10x doesn't mean more work, okay? 10x results doesn't mean more work. 10x results could mean less work. That's what I want. who wants less work and more growth, right? So think about that. Now, you ever been on the treadmill and you're running at like a 6, or you're like running at a 7, or you're running at a 10 or a 12, and the instructor goes, just hit it up like 0.1 or 0.2, right? And you're like, oh, I don't know, like I'm good at a 7 or I'm good at a 10. And I'm like, yeah, screw it, I'm gonna go 12.2, right? That extra 0.2, what a difference that'll make in the long run. That little 0.2 extra, right, every day. You think that'll add up and make a difference? Not everybody's doing it though, right? You look at the treadmill, everybody's at a 12, nobody's going 12.2, right? So you can think next level. So then I said, screw 10x, I'm gonna go 12.5x. Why? Just because of the treadmill analogy, it landed for me. You can pick your own number. Screw the 10, screw the 12, make it 50, make it 40, what do you want to do, right? The thing is, you're gonna think about things differently if you're thinking 12.5x. Right? I'll take it real for you. Why I came up with this number, honestly, is because we're at 4 million in revenue, and I'm going to 50 million. What's that? 12.5x. That's what I got to do. So what is it going to take to get there? I got to be thinking, what's 12.5x look like? Not what does 2x look like, 3x look like, 4x. What's 12.5? What opened up for me, oh, we got plenty of time. Let me slow it down. What opened up for me is that it's a whole new way of thinking, right? It's just like totally different way of thinking. And I realized when I asked my sales team, I said, listen, what's your goal for this year? My top sales guy, and he's like 1.5 million. I'm like, amazing. It's like, do you think you can do 5? And he's like, no. And I'm like, well, what would it take to do 5? He's like, well, I'd have to close a deal with like Realogy, the biggest brand in the country. I'm like, so it's possible. He's like, yeah. I'm like, see, in like one question, I just opened him up. Like one question, right? Like what would it take for that to actually happen? So think about where you're stopped right now. And it's like you haven't been asked that one question like, well, like I'll take somebody in the room. Who's got a revenue goal for their company this year? Back of the room. What's your revenue goal? 30 million? Awesome. Can you go 50 million? Can you go 70 million? Can you go 100 million? It says the limit, right? So I can just keep going. But some people might get stopped. They'd be like, you know what, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. Yeah, because it would take something, a different way of thinking that you're currently not thinking. Right? So, if I want to go 2x, there's plenty of paths to 2x. Right? I can do this. I can increase my product price. I can increase my monthly subscriptions. I can do all kinds of things to increase the 2x, to double my revenue this year, right? If you think about it, you probably have like, if I said, write down on a piece of paper at least 50 ways to double your business this year. Piece of cake? Yeah. Right? All right, so you got a lot of ideas, and they're in the box, they're in the circle, right? The thing is, when you have all these ideas, what do you have? Ideas, right? Until it's action and it's scheduled and blah, blah, blah. But what I'm saying is when you have a lot of ideas, is it clear where you're going? Right? It's a lot of choices. 50 ideas to grow my business and double it is a lot of choices. I actually have to pick which ones are going to work out. Right? Now here's where it's crazy. You're reducing your focus. Right? You got all these choices. Now think about it this way. What would it take to go 12.5x? Can you still come up with 50 ways? Probably going to come up with less. What does that mean? More focus. What does that mean? Less choices. What does that mean? These are the things that are going to make a huge freaking difference in your business. These are the things you should be focusing on because it's going to 12x, 50x, 100x your business. Right? But if you're over here, and I'm telling you, I'm doing this right now, I'm literally straddling 80-20, right? Like I could do the 80 that's got me here, right? And be comfortable, or I could go the 20, and then maybe go the 20 of the 20, and it's gonna get me way over there. Might take a little longer, might be a different ride, may feel different, may feel uncomfortable, But shit, when that closes, holy cow, it's exponential, right? And I'm experiencing that now. It's crazy. Like I deals with like Realogy and like the California Association of Realtors, 200,000 agents. I was doing deals for 5 agents, 50 agents, 20 agents. Now it's hundreds of thousands. It's this shift. I'm talking, I read this book like a month ago. I did this shift like 3 weeks ago, and it's already happening. That's why I told Nick, I'm like, I'm coming here today. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I'm like, bro, I got to talk about this because this is changing my business. And if I can wake up somebody in here that's like, man, I'm going to think 12.5. I'm going to think 40. I'm going to think 50. I'm going to do the stuff that I wasn't normally doing because that's linear and that's, as my kids say, basic, right? I'm not going to go basic. I'm going to go exponential. So you could think out of the box, but there's only a few paths that take you to 10 or 12x. Way more focused. It takes a certain kind of thinking and focus, and it's actually doing less. I am doing way less right now. It's like, you know when you go to the gym and you're doing all this shit and you're not losing weight? And you're like, what's going on? And then you see this one person who's like focused, like really slow, like, and you're like, they're not even working out. Yeah, they're working out better than you're working out, right? Because they're focused, right? They're getting the definition. They know where they're going. And we're running around like chickens without our head in the gym, right? So 12.5x, you know what this is? The David, right? So I'll leave you with this. Go out and think about how you can go 12.5x. Just start thinking about it. Think about whatever number, 20x, 11x. Do something more than 2x just for the exercise of it. And say, what would it take for my business to do that kind of business, right? And then think of the actions behind it. And then obviously take action and schedule it and all, the stuff we know to do. But here's the thing. He created a vision of David in my mind and simply carved away everything that was not David.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's it.
Drop that mic, bro.